My perfect brother and his fiancée demanded my inheritance for their wedding. When my parents sided with them, I uncovered a shocking family secret. So, I'm Olivia, 29, and I'm the oldest in my family. We're not poor, but we're not rolling in cash either. My parents, Karen and Paul, have owned this cozy little calf for over 20 years. It's been the heart of our small town, and it's always had its regulars. Growing up, we weren't rich, but we always had enough. My parents worked hard, and they taught me and my younger brother, Max, 26, to do the same. Now, let me give you some background. Max has always been the golden child. It's no secret, my parents saw him as perfect, even when he messed up. He'd get away with not studying or barely lifting a finger, but they'd praise him endlessly. I never minded too much. I'm not one to crave attention, and if Max needed to be the center of it, I figured, why fight it? It never bothered me until now. This is where things get interesting. About 4 years ago, my granddad passed away. He and I were really close, and it hit me hard. When his will was read, I found out he'd left me a trust fund. Now, it wasn't a fortune, but it was a solid chunk of money, enough that it could really change my life if used right. The only catch? I couldn't access it until I turned 30, and even then, it was for specific things like buying a house or going back to school. At first, I didn't think about it much. I'm not a spender, so I figured I'd just leave it alone until I needed it. My plan was to use it, to buy a small apartment in the city or to finally start the small business I've always dreamed of. But then, everything changed earlier this year when Max got engaged to his girlfriend, Sophia, who's 27 and comes from a wealthy family. Now, I'm not saying Sophia's a bad person, but she's one of those types who's always the life of the party, charming, well put together, the kind of person everyone loves. At first, I liked her, but things started to feel off. One evening, at a family dinner, she casually mentioned my trust fund. She asked what I was planning to do with the money once I could access it. It was so random. I mumbled something about maybe buying a place or starting a business. And then, without skipping a beat, she smiled this big, wide smile and said, "Wow, that's so lucky. You know, Max and I could really use some help with the wedding or even a down payment on a house. You don't need all that money, right?" Max gave an awkward chuckle, unsure if she was serious. I laughed too, but Sophia just kept staring at me, waiting for me to agree. It was so uncomfortable. My parents quickly jumped in and said something like, "The money is Olivia's, and it's not really up for discussion." That seemed to put a stop to things, at least for the night. But after that dinner, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Over the next few weeks, every time we had a family gathering, Sophia would bring it up again, more pointedly each time. She'd say things like, "It's so great that you have that kind of opportunity, Olivia. Not everyone gets a chance to really help their family." I tried to brush it off, but she wouldn't stop. Max didn't say much at first, but soon, he started chiming in too. He'd say stuff like, "I mean, it's not like you're using the money right now. I get why Sophia's bringing it up." I decided to talk to my parents, hoping they'd step in and set some boundaries, but their reaction threw me off. My mom said something like, "Sophia just wants to feel like part of the family. She's not trying to be pushy." I was taken aback. Who said she was being pushy? I hadn't even used that word, but yeah, that's exactly what it felt like. At this point, I started feeling cornered. I didn't want to cause drama, but I wasn't going to give up money that wasn't even available yet, and I had my own plans for it. I figured if I just stayed calm and stuck to my guns, this would blow over. But then, Sophia decided to be blunt. She pulled me aside at another family dinner. This time, she wasn't subtle at all. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Olivia, I really think you should reconsider what you're doing with that money. Helping Max and me would mean so much. And don't you think it's kind of selfish to hold on to it when you're not even using it?" I was shocked. No one's ever called me selfish to my face before. I told her as calmly as I could that the money wasn't even available yet and that I had my own plans for it. When the time came, she just stared at me like I'd slapped her and then said, "I guess I misunderstood what kind of person you are." The next day, Max called me to apologize, but it didn't feel genuine. He said something about Sophia being stressed with the wedding and how she didn't mean to come across so harsh, but then added, "She's not wrong though. You're in a position to help, and it wouldn't hurt to think about it." I started to question myself. Was I being selfish? Was I blowing this out of proportion? I talked to some close friends, and they all assured me I wasn't in the wrong, but it didn't make it any easier to deal with. This was starting to feel like a huge weight on my shoulders. It wasn't just the comments or the awkward conversations. It was the sense that my family wasn't on my side. My parents, who I thought would back me no matter what, seemed more interested in keeping the peace than standing up for me. I started realizing this wasn't going to blow over anytime soon. Sophia wasn't the kind of person to take no for an answer, and Max was clearly on board with whatever she wanted. My parents were stuck in the middle, trying to smooth things over without really addressing the problem. I had no idea how far this would go, but one thing was clear: I wasn't backing down. Am I overreacting? Tell me what you think. Update 1. Hey everyone. I didn't think I'd be back so soon, but things have escalated. It feels like I'm stuck in this impossible situation with no way out. So, here's the update. After that awkward conversation with Sophia, where she called me selfish, I started noticing a shift in how people acted around me. It wasn't anything super obvious at first, but there was definitely a change in the air. Sophia's been bringing it up more and more, and now Max is too. He said it wouldn't have to be the whole thing, just enough to help with the down payment for a house. I guess that trust fund is keeping her awake at night. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A wedding gift? Who even asks for something like that? I told Sophia no again and tried to explain, as politely as I could, that the trust fund wasn't even accessible yet, and even if it were, I had my own plans for it. She gave me this look, like I had just told her I hated puppies. It was this shocked, disapproving expression that left me speechless. Then she said, "I thought you'd be more supportive of the family, Olivia." At this point, she even suggested that giving them the money would be an investment in the family's future. I had to fight back the urge to laugh at how ridiculous that sounded. An investment? I was supposed to bankroll their life and then what? Expect dividends? What made it worse was how Max was slowly being pulled into her way of thinking. He wasn't outright demanding the money. Not yet anyway, but he started saying things like, "Olivia, you're in such a good position. You could really make a difference here, don't you think?" It felt like I was stuck in a nightmare. I had worked my butt off for what I had, carefully planning for my future, saving money, while Max seemed to think it was his birthright to have everything handed to him. My dad, Paul, chimed in with something that shocked me even more. "I'm not saying you should do it, Olivia, but maybe just think about it. Sometimes keeping the peace is more important than being right." Keeping the peace? Is that seriously their priority here? I was starting to realize this wasn't just about Sophia anymore. My parents were enabling her behavior, whether they realized it or not. They'd always been the keep the peace type, but this was beyond that. I finally snapped. I told them no, firmly this time. I reminded them that the trust fund wasn't mine to access yet, and even when it was, I had no intention of giving any of it away. That's when Sophia's tone shifted. She said that I was hoarding money that could be used to help the whole family, and that it wasn't fair for me to keep it all to myself. Max jumped in immediately. "I see your point, Olivia, but Sophia's not wrong. This could really change things for us. You're in such a good position to help." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own brother was pressuring me to give up my inheritance just to keep Sophia happy. I stood up, told them no again, and walked out. Since then, things have only gotten worse. Sophia has been talking to the extended family, telling them her version of the story. Now, I'm getting calls and texts from aunts, uncles, and even cousins I haven't spoken to in years, all telling me I'm being selfish and that I should do the right thing. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I'm not sure how many updates this will take, but I'm barely holding it together. What's worse is I realize this isn't just Sophia anymore. My entire family seems to be falling apart over this trust fund drama. After that disastrous lunch with Max and Sophia, where they asked for half of the trust fund, I thought maybe things would calm down. I'd made it as clear as possible that the money wasn't even accessible yet, and that I wasn't giving them any of it. But now, everything's more tense than ever. I was getting increasingly frustrated. I had walked into what I thought would be a casual conversation with my parents, but now it felt like an interrogation. They were sitting upright, all formal, as though we were preparing for a business meeting. My mom motioned for me to sit, and I immediately realized this wasn't just a chat. This was an intervention. It started off with the usual small talk. My dad asked how work was going, how things were in general. I kept my answers short, knowing something was coming. It didn't take long for my mom to bring up what this was really about. "Olivia," she began, her voice slightly strained. "We've all been feeling a lot of tension lately, and we just want to find a way through it." She hesitated for a moment before continuing. "We're planning Max and Sophia's wedding and trying to figure out our future. And honestly, even a little bit of help from you could make such a big difference." Sophia, sitting beside Max, jumped in almost immediately, nodding eagerly. "Exactly," she added, her voice so sweet it almost made my teeth hurt. "It doesn't have to be half, just something to show that you support us. It's not just about the money, it's about family." That word family was starting to feel like a weapon they were using against me. I took a deep breath and tried to keep my voice steady, not wanting to lose control. "I'm not using the money right now," I said, my words careful but firm. "I don't even have access to it yet. Why should I give up something that isn't mine to give?" Max sighed like he was exhausted by this whole conversation, looking at me as if I were being unreasonable. "It's not just about the money, Olivia. It's about showing that you care. You're in such a good position, and this could really help us start our life together." I glanced at Sophia, and her smug expression made my blood boil. She looked like she'd already won this battle. "This isn't fair," I said, trying to stay calm but feeling the frustration rise in my chest. "I've worked hard to plan for my future. I've been following the rules of the trust fund. I'm not just holding onto it tightly for no reason." Max shot me a look, as though trying to guilt-trip me into agreeing. "It's better to compromise, Olivia. It's better to give a little than to hold onto something so tightly." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own parents, who had always supported me, were now backing Sophia. I could feel my frustration bubbling over. "I'm not holding onto it tightly," I snapped. "I'm following the rules of the trust fund, and I have my own plans for it. Why is that so hard for everyone to understand?" There was a long, tense silence. Finally, Sophia spoke, her voice sharp and cold. "You know, Olivia, I think the real issue is that you just don't want to help us. You're hoarding money that could make all the difference." I felt a flash of anger, but I kept my cool. "No, this isn't about hoarding money. This is about me sticking to my plans. It's about me having control over my own future, which you seem to have forgotten." Max exchanged a look with Sophia before turning back to me. "We just want to find a solution that works for everyone." I couldn't hold back the sarcasm anymore. "You mean a solution that works for you and Sophia, right? Because that's all this meeting is really about." I had reached my breaking point. I couldn't believe how unfair everything had become, and the pressure from my family was overwhelming. If they couldn't see how wrong this all was, then I honestly didn't know what else to say. And with that, I walked out. Since then, I've barely spoken to my parents. Max and Sophia have completely cut me off, which, to be honest, feels like a bit of a relief at this point. But the worst part is how isolated I feel. I always thought my family was my safety net, the ones who'd always have my back. Now, I don't even know what to think. Update. Hey, Reddit. I'm back with another update. and things have only gotten worse. After weeks of being cornered, guilt-tripped, and painted as the villain, I finally decided to take a stand. It's not what I wanted, but I'm starting to realize that I can't just keep hoping things will magically get better. After that last family meeting, I took a few days to process everything. The constant calls, texts, and side glances from family members, it was suffocating. Then I found out that Sophia had been going around at family gatherings, spreading rumors about me. Apparently, she had been saying things like, "Olivia doesn't care about family, and it's sad to see someone prioritize money over their own brother." Hearing that made my blood boil. I knew Sophia was manipulative, but to go behind my back and turn the entire family against me, that was a new low. To make matters worse, Laura, one of my cousins, told me that Sophia had even been asking other relatives about my financial situation. The way she was prying into my finances could easily be considered harassment. I immediately contacted my lawyer, and she reassured me that the trust fund was completely ironclad, that no one but me would have access to it when the time came. That brought me some peace, but it didn't solve the immediate problem. My lawyer advised me to start documenting everything: texts, emails, conversations, anything that could show a pattern of harassment or manipulation. She even suggested issuing a cease and desist letter if things didn't calm down soon. Over the next few days, things continued to escalate. I was getting messages from people I hadn't talked to in years, all asking what was going on. Some of the comments I was getting were downright nasty. It was clear that Sophia had been using her connections to spread lies and gossip about me. And it wasn't just online either. Sophia took her campaign to the real world. One of my coworkers pulled me aside one day and said, "Hey, just so you know, someone's been asking questions about you." Apparently, someone had called HR pretending to be a family member and asked about my salary and financial situation. I felt sick to my stomach when I found out. I knew I had to act. I immediately sent a formal letter to Sophia, making it clear that any further harassment would result in legal action. I hated doing it, but at this point, I didn't have a choice. I couldn't let her continue this attack on my life. Within days of sending the letter, Max called me furious. He accused me of making everything worse, of being unreasonable. But honestly, at this point, I wasn't surprised. Max had already sided with Sophia, and I knew it would take more than a few words to change his mind. But the reality was, this had gone too far. And so, things stand. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know one thing. I'm done being the family scapegoat. He said, "What the hell, Olivia? You sent a legal letter to my fiancé? Do you know how embarrassing this is for us?" I tried to stay calm. "Max, I had no choice. Sophia has been harassing me for weeks, and I can't take it anymore. She's crossed so many lines." Max didn't get it. I hadn't heard from Sophia directly, but my parents were furious with me for involving a lawyer. My mom called, her voice sharp and exasperated. "You didn't need to make this a legal matter, Olivia. You could have just talked to us." I reminded her that I had tried to talk to them multiple times, but they did nothing. But of course, that didn't change her mind. Right now, I'm focusing on protecting myself. I've documented everything, and my lawyer is on standby in case Sophia tries anything else. It's not the resolution I wanted, but it's the only one that feels safe. At least the vague, passive-aggressive posts on social media stopped. For a few days, it felt like things might actually calm down. But of course, it wasn't that simple. Max and my parents made sure the tension didn't go away. It started with my mom calling me again, her voice full of frustration. "Olivia, do you have any idea how much damage that letter caused? Sophia's humiliated, and now the whole family thinks we're falling apart." "Mom," I said, already exhausted, "Sophia has been harassing me for months. You could have helped if you'd listened." But as always, that didn't change her mind. The real shock came from Max. He accidentally sent a group text meant only for Sophia to a family chat that included me, our parents, and a few cousins. The messages exposed everything. In the first text, Max wrote to Sophia. I found the messages you sent to your friends about Olivia and the trust fund. Are you serious? You've been bragging about securing the bag this whole time? Then came the screenshots he attached, messages Sophia had sent to someone else, gloating about how she was manipulating everyone, including me, just to get her hands on money that wasn't hers. This stops now. When those messages and screenshots appeared in the family chat, the silence was deafening. Seconds later, Max realized his mistake and sent, "Oh no, this wasn't supposed to go here. I'm so sorry." But it was too late. The group chat exploded. My mom was the first to respond, writing, "Sophia, what is this? Is this true?" My dad quickly followed with, "Sophia, you told us you were trying to work things out with Olivia. Why didn't you tell us about this?" I looked at Max, my frustration bubbling just below the surface. "I didn't mean for you to find out like this," he said, his voice quiet. "Max, why didn't you say something sooner? You've been defending her for months, while she's been doing this behind everyone's back." "I didn't know how bad it was until recently," he admitted. "I found those messages on her phone by accident, and I couldn't believe it. I was trying to figure out how to confront her without blowing everything up. But then, the fallout from those texts was immediate. Laura, my cousin and biggest supporter, told me later that the family group chat had been buzzing with reactions for hours after I left it. Many of the relatives who had been criticizing me started to change their tune, finally seeing Sophia's true colors. But Sophia wasn't done. In the days that followed, she tried to save face by calling family members individually and spinning new stories. She claimed the texts were jokes or that they were taken out of context. But I could hear the regret in Max's voice when he called me to apologize. It didn't erase the months of hurt I'd endured. "Max, I'm glad you're seeing things clearly now," I said, "but you need to figure out why you let her manipulate you and why you defended her even when the signs were there. And that is it for now. Thank you all for your comments. I really appreciate the support. Honestly, I don't think Max will continue with his relationship with Sophia, but I'm not sure yet. If anything else comes up in my messed up life, I'll post a final update." The aftermath was a cascade of consequences. Sophia's dream wedding was falling apart. The high-end venue she'd booked was cancelled. The dress she wanted was returned. She couldn't afford any of it because she'd been counting on me to fund her vision. Now that her plan had backfired, everything was unraveling. Eventually, Sophia disappeared from social media entirely. She stopped showing up at family events and went quiet. It was a relief to have her out of my life, but it didn't erase the damage she'd done. My parents, shaken by everything, started reaching out to me, acknowledging their own issues. My parents also expressed regret, finally admitting they had let the situation get out of hand. Rebuilding trust will take time, but we're moving in the right direction. This whole ordeal taught me the importance of setting boundaries, standing up for myself, and prioritizing my own happiness. For the first time in a long time, I feel at peace. My relationships are healing, my life is moving forward, and I'm ready to leave all of this behind.